Welcome to Daddy Ball, an in-depth look at the issue of parent coaches in youth sports. Something I've come across a lot recently is a lot of comments, Instagram posts, Facebook posts warning parents about the issues of joining a youth sports team with a parent as a coach. And I totally understand the potential bias that may come up, and we all have heard horror stories about some of these issues and biases. But I really wanted to get an in-depth look and really talk to some parents on teams to really see, is this as big of an issue as it's played out to be on the internet? Or are some of these people, making an issue out of something that's, not really there? So we're going to talk with 6 different dads of, various teams. Some are coaches, some are not. Some choose to coach, and some have left that up to a paid coach. And we really just want to dig in, provide some value, and hopefully give you some different perspective on the issue. I think there's a lot of great points that come up in these discussions, and it's not a simple black or white, yes or no answer. I think we really need to dig in, find a little bit more information about that organization, and make an informed choice for yourself and your family. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys get something out of it. Please leave a comment if you've had any issues, positive, negative. Are you a coach? Have you joined a team with a parent coach? Whatever that looks like, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. We'd love to get your perspective. Thank you.
So welcome back to another episode here of Daddy Ball, where I'm really just trying to, dig in and learn a little bit more about what may or may not be an issue here in, baseball, travel baseball, rec league, little league, all these types of things. What we're talking about is parent coaches versus, paid coaches. And really when I think people are talking about these Daddy Ball issues is the parent who has a son on the team who's playing shortstop, hitting in the 3-hole, who's nowhere near as good as everyone, right? And I think some of these
Right.
biases can creep up, and that's obviously a problem, right? But what I really want to dig into, and what we're doing with talking to a lot of different parents and coaches, is really see, is this as big of an issue that it's kind of made out to be on social media, especially. If someone posts about, Daddy Ball parent coach, and you can get a slew of comments saying, find another organization, get a paid coach, all these types of things. So what I, really want to do is just, talk about that, share some different experiences, and see what it's like, around the country.
Right. Understood.
Perfect. So, we're here with Tom, and Tom has played baseball, and we chatted a little bit previously. A number of kids in different levels and organizations and competitive, teams. So, first of all, if you want to just, introduce, I guess, kind of yourself, where you guys are at, and just kind of run through real quick, what teams all of your kids are on there.
Yeah, my name is Tom. I'm actually a minister.
Okay.
I'm 46 years old. I've been playing baseball since I was 9 in Little League. I don't know that we had travel baseball as big as it is now back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Played high school I love the game. I always practiced as a kid by myself against a brick wall and having to play with. Played in high school, played in college at the NAIA level. Went overseas for a little bit and played in some like amateur all-star opportunities.
Oh, that's fun.
Played in some men's leagues. And then when I got married, I sort of retired to softball.
Yeah.
and then I had kids, and I sort of couldn't wait till they started playing. So I got 2 boys, a 7-year-old, almost 8, and a 10-year-old. And currently we're involved with 5 different teams.
Wow.
7-year-old plays Little League, and he plays on an 8-year-old travel team. And then my 10-year-old plays Little League. He plays on a mid-level travel team, and then he plays on a more competitive travel team. I coach the Little League. They're my 7-year-old's travel team is coached by dads. My 10-year-old's one travel team is coached by dads. And then his competitive travel and tournament team is coached by paid coaches.
Okay.
So I cover a lot of bases.
You have an interesting perspective probably at every angle here. So I'm pretty excited here to chat a little bit. So from the start there, 10-year-old, 7-year-old, is that kind of the only sport that they've really, jumped onto? Did that come from you, or have we tried out some other things and we're, settling on baseball at this point?
They love baseball, but they also play in the fall because I believe they should play multiple sports and
Sure.
get
Yeah.
good different muscles and stuff moving.
Absolutely.
So they play soccer.
Okay.
In the wintertime, they play basketball. But while in the fall and winter, they're also doing some baseball training.
Sure.
In the spring, baseball becomes pretty, hard for 2-3. But they play multiple sports, and they play in the for soccer and basketball rec league only.
Okay.
But they love it for just playing with their friends from school, and a lot of their baseball friends in little league and stuff play. So it's fun. We enjoy it, and they enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important. All these, major leaguers, the MLB, college coaches talking about multi-sport athletes and how important that is. And
it gets them into shape for baseball, I always say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think it's right. Baseball can be the focus, which it sounds like it is, but you don't have to go play multiple competitive travel sports and spend $50,000 a year per kid. You can go and just have fun in some other sports and still learn those skills and kind of just become an overall better athlete, right?
Yeah, and it's all about developing them as good young men and good athletes, and
exactly,
making friends and that kind of thing.
For sure. So you are involved as a coach on one of the teams, correct?
Yeah, they're actually, because of the way their ages fall, and my younger son is fairly good. I moved him up, so I coached them both on the same team.
Oh wow, okay. Oh, that must be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is that like? In terms of a lot of times we'll hear coaches a little bit more harsh on their own kids to try and avoid any potential issues. Do you find you put yourself into that category? Would you say you're a little bit tougher on them just because they are your kids?
I think I'd put myself in that category.
Yeah.
For example, last night we had a Little League game, and my kids, it's spring break here. So my kids are on vacation with their aunt and uncle. But I went to the game, the coach with the other coaches, and I've never been more relaxed because my kids weren't there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think when my kids are there, I have a certain expectation, whether it's right or wrong, that I want them to hit, and maybe because I feel like it's a reflection on me or what have you.
Who knows? Yeah.
So, I think I judge them harder and probably push them harder in those settings than maybe I should. And I'm just being honest.
Yeah. I don't think that's uncommon. I coached my daughter. She's only turning 5 this summer, so just kind of an introductory t-ball type thing last summer. But I totally understand how that could would play out, and I would look at her and be like, hey, you need to do this, even though everyone else isn't performing at that level. I would still probably be a little bit tougher and push her a little bit more. Absolutely.
Like after one of the games that we lost, I was kind of annoyed, and I made my 2 boys stick around for another hour and take batting practice.
Yeah. But I think, and this is something that has come up in some conversations, is do you think that those your sons have that love of the game that maybe some of the other players on the team don't?
I do, because as much as they play, when they're home, they're always like, Dad, let's go outside and play catch. Dad, can we go outside and hit? We'll just go over to the Little League field or to the school field and just turn on the tunes and hit for 2 hours. Or practice pitching. So they just enjoy playing the game, or they'll go outside and play catch with each other. So they just have a love for the game that some of the kids don't. And I'll ask the kids if we have a rain out, have you guys picked up a ball since we played last? And 85-90% of them say, no, we haven't touched the ball. Mm-hmm. Where my probably, even if they don't have an organized practice or game, they're playing almost every single day, even on their own.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what I probably suspected is some of the parents who may criticize parent coaches maybe don't see that extra work, right? And I think every parent is going to bias their kids, so everyone thinks their kid is probably a little bit better than they actually are, and if that that parent's kid is getting more playing time, is it actually a bias? Is it unfair? Or are they a part of a family that just loves baseball and, like you said, get out there and just go, do BP instead of going for a bike ride or a hike or whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah, I think sometimes, and that may play into it. The coach knows all the work that their son or daughter has put in,
Mm-hmm.
and they, kind of reward that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Now, on that team that you do coach, have you encountered, pushback or any conflicts in regards to playing time or, perceived favoritism, anything like that?
I haven't. Now it's Little League Rec.
So it's not
And
as intense, yeah.
yeah, it's not as intense. And my older son is like, he's the oldest and the best kid on the team.
Okay.
And we've at times have pulled him back even when the parents are like, oh, you should let him just pitch or whatever. And my younger son, he's pretty good too. So no one's in Little League. No one's pushed back that, you're favoring your kid over my kid or anything. They haven't pushed back. And we try to make sure that we don't favor, me and the other coaches, that we don't just favor our kids. Our kids tend to probably are the better kids. And it's probably because we put the time in with them,
Mm-hmm.
and we all love baseball, and the kids all love baseball. So just naturally, they're better.
Yeah.
But we try to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to play. And even last night, when my kid's not there, other kids got to play the positions that they do that normally don't.
Mm-hmm.
And we won, and everybody had a good time. So it was actually probably good, so that everybody can get a chance to do something. And it was good that I showed up too, even with my kids not being there, to say, hey, he's not just coming for his own kids, but he's there for everybody's kid and to be part. So.
Yeah, I think that probably, as a parent, if I was just, on the team, that would send definitely a strong message, saying, hey, you're like you said, he's here. It's not just a volunteer. I'm here because my kids have to be, but he's, dedicated to the team and not just his two kids. Absolutely.
Yeah, and there's 4 coaches, so I could have easily just said, well, I'm going to stay tonight. I went and enjoyed it and cheered them on just as loud as if my own kids are playing.
Absolutely, for sure. No, yeah, and I think that's probably an aspect of a great coach is when you're looking at playing time and it's little league. I think your sons are getting the reps on their other teams as well, right? So knowing that they're going to get to hit later that week as well, and this may not be their only game. I'm sure that helps out with keeping things calm with the parents and keep those conversations to a minimum.
Yeah, we haven't had any. And the other coach who kind of he laid out all our expectations to the parents pretty strongly, and he communicates well. He deals with all that stuff. So the parents haven't had any complaints so far.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah. Now, looking at, say, the more competitive travel teams, and it's not a team that you coach, correct?
Yeah, I don't coach any of the travel programs.
Okay. Now, is that because there were already coaches in place? Did you actively decide, I don't want to be a part of this more competitive team? What went into, I guess, you not being the coach on one of those teams?
I think mainly just because of my schedule, it wouldn't have worked out.
Sure.
But also, now the 2 of these travel teams are coached by other fathers. Also, it just gives another perspective, another voice from kids to hear besides mine.
Yeah.
And sometimes they react better to that than just always having their dad on their case. So from that angle, I appreciate that, because they'll listen to someone's criticism, or maybe criticism is the wrong word. They'll listen to someone else's instruction more than they might listen to their own father's instruction.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So on those, okay, so on the travel teams that do have a parent coach, are you able
Right.
to kind of sit back and evaluate, that coach and son dynamic on that team and take anything away from it to maybe improve your own coaching?
I have a really good relationship with those coaches. We've
Good.
become
Okay.
friends.
Oh, good. Good.
Um, both of the coaches on the 10-year-old and then on the 7-year-old level are different in the way they coach and the way they handle the team. So I've taken both good and bad from both situations.
Sure.
Um, and it's actually nice to sit back and see how that interaction happens. Sometimes it does frustrate my boys because maybe they're used to one way that I do things, and the
Yeah.
coach does something else, or they're not, put into, they're not batting in the 4 hole where maybe I would put them in the 4 hole kind of thing.
Mhm.
But that's good for them. That's good for them to learn. Listen, I'm not always going to be, you know,
Yeah.
put where my dad's going to put me. They're going to put me where they want to put me.
Yeah, you got to earn your spot in the lineup, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So, the travel teams with the parent coaches sounds like another great situation there. Have you heard, and again, I don't want to put anyone, thrown in under the bus here, but has there been any sort of, chatter or any kind of issues with, playing time or favoritism, anything like that?
Um, if anything, on my older son's team, when it was first created last year, there was chatter like he had some kids on the team that weren't really that developed in baseball. I
Okay.
mean, they would be okay in little league. So
Sure.
there was maybe some chatter like you're too nice and you're giving too much of an opportunity to these kids. It's
Okay. The other way, yeah.
yeah. On my 8-year-old, 7-year-old's team, his 8-year-old team, um, we just love the way the coach runs the things. He's very clear. He puts out a lineup every week. Every inning has what position the kids are going to, so they know when they get there. This is where I'm playing. This is where I'm batting. If they improve, he'll move them up in the lineup. So he's very clear with his expectations, and we've had no problems. My 10-year-old's team, they actually this year had to cut some kids because not they were great kids. They just weren't great athletically.
Mhm.
So he's trying to work and improve that team as well. So they both have made good strides in trying to do the best for the kids without being so competitive and cutthroat that nobody wants to play for.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I really like that, putting the lineup out in advance, like before you get to the game. Again, that's going to just ease everyone. They know what's happening coming in. If they get a little, heated or any questions, I'm sure there's, ample time to talk, to the coach beforehand rather than just sitting at the game stewing and just getting more and more mad or whatever that may look like, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been in situations um, with my older son where I was maybe annoyed um, because he maybe forgot to put him in the lineup, and then he said, "Oh," and then he batted him last, and then my son got all mad, and it was just like to be organized so that everybody knows when they get there what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it much more of a better experience than just sort of flying by the seat of your pants,
Sure,
which
yeah.
sometimes happens
Yeah.
and can frustrate the child and frustrate the parents. But overall, the experience has been fun.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, now talk about the the more competitive travel ball team for your 10-year-old son, and that's a paid coach, correct?
Yeah, this is like a baseball academy.
Okay.
So they train year round. Um, and you don't have to sign a contract and say I have to be there through. It's kind of a la carte.
Okay. All right.
The more you go, the better you're going to get, and you're going to get to play more.
Sure.
And then they have different tournaments, and then they have a team in the travel league. But he's very clear as far as his expectations and what he's trying to accomplish, and he's trying to develop these players not just to win, but more to develop their athletic abilities and their baseball skills to kind of help them as they get into high school college if they go that far, and
Yeah.
even the pros, who knows if they go that far. So it's more of a whole kind of package, not just we're getting the best kids to win. It's we
Yeah.
want to develop these guys into good athletes and baseball players. And then for the tournaments, he says everybody will play a minimum of X amount of innings or X amount of games, but the better players are going to earn more playing time. So that's crystal clear.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a dad of anybody on the team. The assistant coaches aren't a dad of anybody on the team. So there's no bias whatsoever there. And my son really likes that. And I like it too, because, he's the big stud on the Little League team and his other travel team. But here he's like in the middle of the pack, and he
Okay.
realized, wow, if I really want to go somewhere in baseball, I got to really work at it. And there's other kids that are a lot better than me. So I better, if I'm going to take this serious, I got to really do something about it. So I've appreciated him being on that team too, just because it kind of gives him a real baseball experience versus just, you're the best kid in Little League. Yippee.
Yeah.
You go off in high school or whatever, and I didn't make the team. Well, you're not just because you were the biggest kid in Little League, that's why you're the best. This is actually learning baseball skill and, the finer points of baseball. Practice in Little League or travel might just be infield, outfield. This is like cuts and defensive shifts and all kinds of, bunting, defensive position. So you're really learning baseball at a higher level. But the coach is great too. He's great with the kids. He gave everybody an evaluation after like an 8-week training program of their strengths, their weaknesses. So as a parent, you knew what to work on with your child. I sat down with my son and said, here's where you're doing well. Here's what we got to work on. And then we started working on those things. So it's been a good experience to have that, not just from a parent perspective and a Little League perspective, but kind of an outside elite level academy perspective.
Yeah. Now looking at that one, so you decided to join that. Did you have multiples that you were considering? Did you go do some tryouts, or coaching with, or just talking to different coaches, or team organizers, anything like that?
At the end of the fall, my oldest son he liked his travel team, but he was a little frustrated. There was some, so he said, "Can I try out for some teams?" So we tried out for like 8 or 9 different teams, made most of them. And at the end of the day, he kind of said, I kind of want to stick with my friends. I said, fine.
Sure.
And then I found this organization, and I talked to the coach, and he said, you could either train with us, you could play with us, you could just play in a few tournaments. So it was sort of an experience
Okay.
where you could take as much out of it as you wanted. So let me dip my toe in the pool here and see how it's going to work. And my son just fell in love with it. And, we've been and he even works his program so you can still play on a travel team in your hometown and still play with him. So and still play Little League. Like, they're not trying to say, don't play Little League, only play for us.
Mm-hmm.
So he caters it to however much you want out of baseball. If you want to go full force and go for it, great, you can go with it. If you want to just kind of go halfway or just get some training, you can do that too. So that's kind of why we ended up liking this program. And it seemed like we made some travel teams that were academy teams, but it seemed like, to be fair, if you had half a bit of talent and a checkbook, you can make the team, because I just wanted.
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Like, I found some of the dad coach teams. I know Daddy Ball gets a bad rap, but they were looking for better players because they wanted to win. Where some of the academy teams were looking for people who were going to pay, and that's just how I kind of felt. But this academy team didn't feel that way. It felt like they really wanted to improve your son's skill as an athlete and as a person, and they didn't really care about wins at this level. They're preparing him for the teenage years, and to play in high school, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's really important. You felt comfortable with that development, and as a family, I'm sure that probably played into it. That you could kind of do what you'd like, right? If it was one weekend a month or whatever that looks like, you could do as like you said as much or as little as you want, and
Yeah,
I'm sure
exactly.
that eased your mind a little bit as well, and really made you feel comfortable that this is going to be a good spot, not just for my son and his development, but this is going to work for our family as well, which I think may not always be a consideration, right? It might be looking at super specific on the organization and the coaches and where have they coached before and are they a parent, all those types of things, but is this going to suit our family life? May not always come into the conversation early on.
Yeah, and this organization really, you can work around that. So we got invited, for example, to a few tournaments this summer, and one of them we're going to. My sons are going to a regular just camp that they go to every year. Not a sports camp, just a sleepaway camp.
Yeah.
So we declined. We just said we can't make this tournament, and there was no like, oh, come on, you got to go. It's just like that's fine, I just throw it out there for the invites, and whoever, if people enough kids can make it, then we'll go to the tournament. If enough kids can't, we won't. So I like that aspect from my family because kids need various activities too.
Sure.
They're gonna.
Yeah.
I don't want to burn my son out at 12. Dad, I played
No.
50 a year, and now I'm done,
Mm-hmm.
which happens all the time.
Oh yeah.
So you walk that fine line of how much is too much, and so far it's been fine for us. We'll see how it goes in the future, but so far
Sure. Sure. Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the the benefits of all these different academies and travel ball teams, and some do a tournament every weekend and some do one a month and some will fly across the country and others keep it within 2 hours, is that there's a ton of choices in lots of areas, not so much in other areas of course, right? But everyone can kind of find what they're looking for and what's going to fit in best with their family and their children.
Right, exactly. Like this, some teams, if you're on the team and they have a tournament every weekend, you have to go to the tournament every weekend. Where this team, they're in a tournament maybe once a month, maybe sometimes twice a month, but you have the option. They have enough kids. They say have 20 10-year-olds.
Okay.
So they'll
Yeah.
invite maybe the first 12. And then if they have some declines out of that 12, they'll invite a few more. And he kind of ranks. He's got a ranking of the kids who he's going to invite. So there's not the pressure like, oh, I have to go to every tournament or I'm going to get kicked off this team, because that's not what they're trying to develop. They're trying to develop kids that know how to play the game, but know how to play the game right and don't get
Yeah.
hurt, and are good human beings and
Yeah,
live the
absolutely.
rest of life too, which
Yeah.
is important.
Yeah. So, I want to jump back just a little bit there when you talked about, there you felt that there were some organizations that were maybe a little bit more about just, getting families in who are able to pay their fees, and potentially not as, focused on that development or anything like that. What would you, say, or what kind of advice would you give to maybe an up and coming parent in this world that, is evaluating some different organizations, parents, coach academies, small businesses, essentially what we're talking about here. What kind of advice would you give to them to make sure that they make the best of choice for their family and their kids?
I mean, look at an organization that's going to first and foremost care about the personal development of your child, not just the athletic development of your child. And that's going to be willing to work with you and as a parent, and not that you're going to tell them what to do, but
Yeah.
give them some input on your own family and maybe a little input on your child and so forth. Um, they're not just looking to win, but they're looking to develop. So for one of the things, like my son pitches, and the one coach in his academy is working with him to make sure that he's not going to hurt his arm. So
Yeah.
he's not pitching him. He's not over pitching him. to do it. And that may mean maybe they're not going to win every game, but means that they're going to have a long career if they choose to, and not just going for the moment, but going for the long picture. So if you're evaluating a program or a team, what is their long goal? What is their end game?
Yeah.
Is it just to get you in right now so they can make money and then they don't really care about your kid? Or is it that they want to develop them as a whole person, not just their baseball abilities as well, which is important, which I find very valuable for us. And I have no problem with that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like you said earlier, you guys tried out for 8 or 9 different organizations, but ended up sticking with the one you were already on, right? So and I think it's important to let your child in on that decision making as well, right? So there may be.
One of the reasons we tried out is I also kind of wanted to see where he stood as a baseball player, because sometimes you don't really understand. And it kind of boosted his confidence. He didn't make he tried out for a couple of teams that were age older.
Okay.
And he made a couple. He didn't make all of them. But his attitude was, all right, what do I got to do to get better? Not, I quit baseball now because I didn't make every single team.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's also teaching him about failure and work ethic. And, he liked all the organizations he tried out for. It was just a matter of what was going to be a good fit for our family at the end of the day. So that's kind of what decision we kind of had to make.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that kind of speaks volumes. And that as someone, who's coaching their son, that there's probably going to be some lessons passed down, and not just skill wise, that more, those life lessons and accountability and, being a good teammate that, not every player is going to have the opportunity to have with their parents, especially if they've never played sports themselves or don't really, understand the team dynamic and where they're at. So I think you kind of see, some of these coaches' kids mature faster as athletes, become better teammates, and really just almost elevate themselves on the team or in the community based on having that parent as a coach.
Yeah. I mean, my younger son, he's kind of got the temperament of Billy Martin.
Okay.
So if I take him out of the game or if I correct him, he'll snap out. So my wife always yells at me and says, "Stop coaching him! Stop coaching him!" But I just enjoy it. But he reacts to other coaches way differently than me.
Sure.
So for him, being in a different spot with a different voice works way better than me, because for me, he's going to throw a fit if he doesn't like what I tell him. My older son, he'll listen to me more, but then he'll get emotional if other kids aren't as good but don't care as much as he does. And then he'll say, "Dad, they're too cocky. They think they're so good and they're not," or he'll just get mad because they're not putting in the work. So they're both very passionate boys when it comes to their sports. They're just passionate in different ways.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, I kind of want to get a bit of a final thought here, and I think your son's at this age where it's starting to get a little bit more competitive and take it a little bit more seriously. Would you, have any strong preference one way or the other as he progresses? Maybe it's a different. It sounds like you have a pretty good home here with this academy that's paid coach. But if that were to close down and you have to re-choose, any strong preference one way or the other, or are we just going to kind of evaluate them, case by case?
I would probably just go case by case.
Yeah.
And make my decision that way.
Sure.
Because we've played against some other academies, and some of the coaches are just ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't want to put my child in that kind of. And I don't mean ruthless like they're ruthless competitors. They're just mean and nasty people.
Yeah. And
fighting and everything. And at the end of the day, it's a sport, and we're not professional athletes or anything here. And it's just for fun. So, you have to keep that in perspective too, that, everybody wants to win. I'm highly competitive, but, you want a coach that is going to example good behavior to the kids on the team as well.
Yeah, I think that's super important, especially at a younger age, before we, and I don't think being ruthless and nasty at any age is okay, but, especially when we're just trying to develop, life skills and making sure that they're good people, whether it's on the field or off the field, and making sure that they're having fun with their friends and being good teammates and all those, types of skills that come, and will play out outside of, the game. Just making sure that you find a coach that is going to be able to foster, those skills along the way.
Yeah, I think sometimes the coaches and the parents care more about the wins and losses than the kids. I mean, maybe not in every case, but not that the kids don't care, but they get over it quickly.
They're going to get over it, pretty quick, right? As long as they're having fun, they're back out the next day with, doing practice, BP in the backyard, and it's a whole new day, and it's, they're ready to go.
It's dad who can't sleep at night when they lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. So, I think that's a good, kind of wrap up point there. I think, like you said, and we've highlighted along the way that, we have to do what's right for your family, kind of go with your gut, and, talk to different coaches, talk to different, families, and really see what's going to be the best fit for your family at any given situation there.
Yeah, what's going to be the best fit and what's going to hopefully help your child develop not only as a player but as a person, and become. I take away from different coaches I've had over my years, and I don't remember all the games that we played, but I just remember the encouragement they gave me along the way.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Those are the things that you're going to take with you in life.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, awesome. Again, I want to thank you a lot there, Tom, for, chatting with me a little bit, opening up kind of your doors to your family and giving some insights. And, I think you give a really unique perspective here, having, your hand in multiple different teams, coaching, not coaching, wanting to coach some, not wanting to coach others. So I think this is really valuable, and I think it's really going to help some other families as they up and, come through the baseball or any sports, world.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And one thing in baseball may have changed over the years, but when I was in Little League, I was an average player. I wasn't never but I loved the game and I just stuck with it, and got to high school, made the varsity, played in college. I was a pretty decent batter. I pitched. I was a good pitcher, but it was more just the love and the sticking it out, versus just natural raw athletic talent.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, if you love something, you'll stick with it. So I just encourage parents, if your kids love whatever the sport is, whether it's baseball, soccer, basketball, whatever, just stay with it. You don't have to be the best. Most people are not going to make the professional level.
No.
But just stick with it, enjoy it. These years go quick, and don't have any regrets.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great final piece of advice there.
So thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and best of luck with all teams there and all your tournaments and all seasons coming up this summer.